Okay, so welcome all you powerful manifestors to the AOM Art of Manifestation channel. I am manifestation coach Sterling Mire, and today I've got a wonderful guest here. Her name is Donna Moore. She was my client just a couple months ago. I believe she completed work with me for about 3 months. And she's an extraordinary person. I have a lot of questions I actually have for her that I'm so interested in delving into and learning more about her and her journey or manifestation journey overall, because we never really did talk about that. I want to also have you know that she's an amazingly creative, episodic screenwriter and actress and stand-up comic. And just an extraordinary, powerful person who has affected my life and enriched it in so many ways. And it's been just nothing but an honor and a privilege working with her. So I want to just introduce Donna Moore. Here she is. So hello, say hello. How are you?
Hi, Sterling. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you. This is an honor to see you and speak.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. I'm so glad you were able to take some time out today to do this with me. So my intention here is that, that this be a really empowering and enlightening conversation that we're going to have about the manifestation process. So that, everyone, is my intention. Let me know in the comments if I delivered, because this is really something I want to be so helpful for everyone here, because I know everybody tuning in here is really wanting to master the manifestation process, and that is my goal. So I'm just going to open up with this question here that I have for you, Donna, about how long have you been studying the manifestation process?
Yeah. So I just turned 60 in May. So so I would say since I was 5, believe it or not, I had my first paranormal experience at age 5, where I was walking from my parents' bedroom into my bedroom, and this audience being said to me, "This is your last life as a human." And I stopped in my tracks, and I remember thinking, like, it was all of a sudden downloaded, actually, like a reincarnation. And then it was sort of, I was told that I'd been mostly a man in most of my lives. Anyway, it's a pretty extreme thing to happen when you're 5 and come from like a Catholic or atheist background, and which I came from both. But that's when I started seeing energy, and that's when I was young enough to be an open channel. And but I always saw things almost like energy, like a CAD drawing, and grown-ups would be talking and I wouldn't know what they were talking about, but I'd see like a building being built, and then something like in the window, if you will, would have something angular, and I go, "Well, have you thought about something like this?" Not even knowing what they were talking about. They're like, "Oh wow, that's kind of cool." And anyway, so I've been sort of on the manifestation journey since I was 5.
Wow, since you were 5.
Consciousness. It was more consciousness, but,
okay.
But that is manifestation.
Yeah, being conscious of that you're creating something in your life. Is that to clarify what you mean?
Well, for me, it was more consciousness of an energy that you could not, most of the people couldn't see. It wasn't just physical, that there was, a spiritual and energetic world out there, and that I was aware of at a very young age. And then when I started writing, like maybe early on, at school, they do creative writing for 15, 20 minutes, but I'd put my pencil on the paper and it would just like take off, and I'd be in a trance and write things that I didn't even know that I knew. And then I started writing like this book series when I was 8. And when I was 9, there was a TV show that came to Boston in the 70s called Zoom. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but it was a PBS beautiful TV show. We just had our 50th year reunion of the beginning of it, but I wrote the play that made it on the pilot of the series. And then 2 years later, I auditioned and became a cast member. And what I attribute it to, as far as the manifestation of that, even at a young age, is that I was just obedient to the channel, or I was just very clear, and I didn't question things or myself. And so I had some pretty great manifestation, until I was like 11 or 12. And then sort of I fell off a cliff after I got off the show. So a physical cliff.
Wow, a physical cliff. So you physically fell?
Well, no, I was on the show for a year when I was 11. And then so when I was 12, I went to a public junior high school and just was unprepared for, because the show had gone nationally, and I just was unprepared for the bullying and the beating up, and it was like a punishment for being, this is gonna sound, but it was like a punishment for being extraordinary. It was like, it then no longer became safe for me to be that channel. And
no, that's great that you're saying that, because it really, what that says to me in terms of like manifesting, and you know this now, is that you got bullied because they considered you special, and what they made that mean is that they are not special, or they are less than.
correct.
Which was a sentence they gave themselves sometime before they met you, through their upbringing, parents, society gave them something, and they created it to mean that about themselves. And it just self-loathing, or this less than or not good enough, gets created at such an early age. However, what people don't understand is that it is self-inflicted, it is self-created, it is absolutely an untruth that then has been adopted as a truth, and therefore it runs their lives, and then creates this behavior called bullying you, right?
Yeah.
Which of course, the whole bullying, really, you didn't have anything to do with it. You were just there, but their way of being in life is how they showed up with everybody, especially if it reminded them of their own sentence that they had given to themselves.
Yeah. And when you're saying self-loathing, that was it a movie or a book called Fear and Self-Loathing? I don't know if you ever heard, but I almost feel like it's kind of a rite of passage when we come down into the physical, and I think everyone on the planet, it's part of the human experience to take on the separation, and also to think that you're, a piece of something, and just really to devalue yourself. And when you're little, I feel like we're not aware that we're doing it, because we're looking to the parents or to the adults or to be our teachers. And meanwhile, they're wounded children, and we didn't quite get the memo. So, but it's like to not be so hard on ourselves for being hard on ourselves. Like it's almost natural. Like, it's kind of like, yeah, this is just the cloak you put on. There's going to be that mistake, or that story of not being good enough but to everyone listening and to myself, I'm special, but I'm not that special. Like, this just happens because I just think it's the nature of being a human. And then we get the opportunity to step out and see that, oh no, we're so much more than that. We we're bigger. We are not our fear. We are not our story. We are not that. We are that which we choose to be. And that's, and I'll let you, I know you probably.
No, I hear you. I'm right in step with you. We are endless possibilities. So if those possibilities are endless and we hold the seeds of potentiality for the fulfillment of those possibilities, then it's just up to us to make a choice on what we want to bring to fruition, what possibility that we want to live and express in this world, because everything in life is just a series of creations and experiences. We're creating something and experiencing it. We're creating something, experiencing. That's all that's going on because we're creative beings. And this is a creative earth. There's creativity everywhere. How do you get away from? Where's there not creativity? I mean, even a rock has creativity. It's still changing and it's doing its thing at the slowest rate and everything. But
well, the Native Americans felt that the spirit was always in the rocks,
Yeah, well, the energy, it holds a lot of energy and things like that, right? Well, let me ask you this. What are some of the books that you read before you met me about manifesting?
Okay, well, and it starts probably going back after that, the 12-year-old Cliff, things sort of, it was hard being a stranger in a strange land. I do have to say, like when you're a child, not that I was a star, but when you're a child on television, what I say in stand-up is the thing I'm most proud of is I never robbed a video store. I didn't shave my head, and I still talk to my parents. So, but I think, so it was back at when I was 16 and I realized there's something wrong here. And I read a book called Loving Relationships by Sandra Ray. This is in the 70s. And also Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain, which was just wonderful. But in more of my adult, the books that helped or that really made a difference, one especially is called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And I got turned on to that when I was about 20. And when I was 27, after I'd had my first child, I developed lupus, and I was able to literally cure myself because of my relationship to that book. And
it sounds like you, through that book, that information helped you tap into the ability to heal yourself.
Well, yeah, it also helped me. She was the first person who wrote out that she believes that we're all 100% responsible for our well-being and our life experience, and which is not to beat you up when stuff's hitting the fan, but it gave me, like, there was magic involved. Like when I first, like, oh my God, I'm 100% responsible. Well, that means I have the power within to overcome this obstacle. So it was like, so by taking responsibility, I was also given, this sort of like a magic superpower of being able to take all the great stuff from the world and all the stuff that I inherently knew and bring it to the forefront and really create positivity. So that is something I'm so proud of, having cured myself of lupus. But I really do. I owe so much to Louise Hay, who is just an amazing woman and teacher and for the world. And I think she passed about 3 years ago, but was amazing. And then the last book before your book was, it is by Jerry and Esther Hicks. Ask and It Is Given. And it was about the law of attraction and Abraham. And and that book was interesting. To be honest with you, though, I couldn't quite. I'm a very, I can get a little analytical in my brain, so I didn't quite experience it. And thank God they have these YouTube, lovely YouTube now to bring such beautiful things like yourself to the world. And it was through that experience that I was also, able to shift certain things in my life. But I'd say those are the books.
So I mean, I got one of the things, I want to hear more about what you got out of reading those books and how it helped you manifest, and just the fact that you were able to tap into healing yourself is a huge breakthrough in itself.
Mhm.
Like, that must be so empowering. That must indicate to you that you can create anything if you can create that, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it was really simple. And I also think like when you want to create, the couple times in my life when I've had, before working with you, and I've had like breakthroughs, uh, there's always like the carrot and the stick. Like I had such desire, being a young woman with a new baby and being sick, really very, very, very sick, was a great motivation for me to get better. And I certainly didn't, I wanted to, with a new child, I wanted to offer my daughter a better life perhaps than I had, or just a life that she deserved to have. And I didn't want to be sick because it came with really bad fatigue. I'd go back to bed at 10 in the morning because I couldn't, it was so fatiguing, and there's depression. But anyway, it really took just the mind. It was a third eye thing that helped me heal myself. And it's
What do you
really,
mean by that? What do you mean a third eye thing?
well, when I made the decision, there's no way I'm going to let this be my narrative. Like I can't conduct myself like this. I really don't want to be on the planet if I'm this way. It was kind of downloaded, and usually the download always comes from my right side. I don't know, but one was just to put so much positivity in my consciousness that the disease would have to die, and sort of how, or just be released. It wasn't even a die thing, but and then
So
it
it sounds like a really powerful intention that you created.
yeah. And then the other thing was that I decided I was never a real gossiper, just because I've always, for the most part, been a very confident person who didn't need to gossip towards others to make myself feel better. For the most part, I'm not, certainly not perfect at all, but I said no more gossip, no more like, do not even say anything negative out there in the world about anyone else or myself, which was a very big thing, because I learned to be very hard on myself, and I had to like let that go. And so I did create so much positivity that literally the dis-ease was not in my body, and they could not find it. And
You disappeared the dis-ease in your mental and emotional state that then disappeared the disease in the body.
yes.
Wow. Like, right? Oh my God. So that also means if we continue to create that dis-ease in our lives, then we're going to create and manifest it on the physical body realm. That energy always takes that course into, it starts with energy, and then it eventually becomes on the physical realm, starts with energy, and then it becomes the expression on the physical realm around us. It's like tying all of that together. I think that this is really almost like still new information for people.
It is.
But it's simple, but it's just amazing that people are still starting to connect the dots between energy, thoughts, and how they produce a manifestation on the physical realm. Right? So within us physically, and around us in our world physically, And I think that, gosh, if everybody just understood just this alone and were awakened to being more responsible about the energy they're creating, this would be an absolutely unrecognizable planet. Just having that realization, understanding.
Absolutely. And then I also think that self-love is also a big part of this. And this is something that I am, I'm a work in progress still, like every day's new, but through working with you, I have noticed like this sort of self-love, just like, poof, like it's just, and compassion towards myself and then others, of course. But whereas for me, I always put it out there, like I thought I was loving other people, but then I'd go home and kind of beat myself up. So sort of like in a way, like, no one's watching, but maybe, you have to be responsible at all times, and especially when you're alone, which is where, the sacredness comes in, or the magic, or the power, the all that good stuff. It's, I believe we're all sacred beings having a human experience. And but self-love, I think when we realize that we are the love that we seek, when we are there to be able to help and trust ourselves, then it's much easier to understand sort of the mechanics of manifestation of what you're saying, because it's a loving experience while you're going through it. It's not like in order to get there, but it's like, I love myself and I'm manifesting. I love myself and I'm working through my stuff. I don't know. I just think it's a very big, I don't know what's the chicken or the egg, but I know that the love and the self-love is probably the most, one of a very essential.
Well, it is, because that's our authentic self. And that's when we're connected to that we have the power to connect, to create anything that we want. And ultimately what we want is happiness and success. So how do we create that? Everybody wants that. We have to be love, because love is the creative energy. Creative energy is love. Hate is destruction, the disappearance of something, versus creating and being abundant and flourishing, right? That's love-based. So yeah, those are two opposite forces. Destruction and creativity are opposite forces, but we're all here to create, and we all want the same thing, which is happiness and success, but we don't all have the tools to do that. So we can become destructive because of that. That's the only piece of the puzzle that's missing to change everything from dark to light. When we got together over a consultation, I was wondering, were you excited to work with me to learn more about manifesting, or what? Or was it mixed with excitement and trepidation? Where were you at? How did you feel about continuing your journey in manifesting?
When we had a consultation, and I saw you on this, and you did this amazing podcast with, is it okay to mention the name?
Yeah, sure, it's out there.
The Jeff Mire podcast, which I'm just been studying that for quite some time for a project that I've been working on. And but when I saw you, it was just like this gut, like, no, I must speak to her, because I was also perhaps in a spot of my life where, I go in and out. I'm not, so I think in the last couple of years, even though there's been some really amazing stuff, wonderful stuff, but there's been this, I think I started shutting down a little and letting my sort of negative stories come, or, like that thing about the bully, when I was like that bully, that 12-year-old thing that happened, I somehow, it's not like, I mean, it disappears, but it's sort of like in a crappy ditty box somewhere, where if I forget who I am, I can start, well, it kind of feels like being bullied or something, like that kind of thing. Like, this is a story of mine that I've had to work on.
Yeah.
And wait, but I'm so sorry. I feel like I just lost my train of thought of
Well,
answering
I was
your.
just talking about, you came to me
Oh,
for a consultation regarding
yes. So,
coaching, and where were you
so
at
I
with
was
that? I mean,
feeling,
were you like a mix of excitement or trepidation
yes,
as well,
right. And it was
fear
a
and
mix of both. But I felt intuitively just very excited, and because I was really jazzed about hearing who you are and who you're being, and I was like, wow, this is what I need to jumpstart myself. And because I sort of was in I think a place of just where I needed the support. And then I was a basket case a number of times, as you probably, I don't think you'd, but where I was like, I was almost afraid, like when we first started working together. And I don't know, I somehow felt like if I put down my story, or if I put down my belief kind of the that the world is doing it to me, or like, I don't know. I was just, I definitely, it was really hard. I was holding on to just some stuff. Like I don't know, I wanted to be right about how shitty the world is and how there's no hope, I guess. And I didn't even know that.
yeah,
And so, and I'm somewhat of an extreme dramatist, so perhaps, but it is true. So with working, so I was trepidatious at different times.
Well, how did you overcome it? And were you ultimately happy with the choice that you made?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Which is also why I'm, here today to speaking with you, and feel really honored. And I literally, I do, every morning and every night, I just come up with 10 things I'm appreciative of. And you are always one of those 10. Like, just meeting you and having you in the world has been, is a gift, and it's something I'm very appreciative of. I think I think I was resistant,
Yeah.
because or I know I was resistant at different times. What really helped me is because you're amazing, but you're a tough broad, like, but meaning a tough broad in a gentle way, but like, you're so convicted in, you're the real deal. And I think I think I was holding on to a story. It wasn't about you. It was just about life, that like, no, people aren't really, like, I didn't really trust. I wasn't trusting I really fully wasn't trusting that you were there for me, and in many ways that, I wasn't trusting other things, like being somewhat negative. But through speaking with you and your coaching, I really got I remember, not, it was it like even a month and a half in or something, but I was like, oh wow, she really is. She's there for me. Like, you were a stand, or you were a beacon, and you're like, I believe in you. I got that, like, oh my God, she really is there for me. And we've never met in person. It's strictly it was a Zoom thing. And this whole pandemic, it's been a little weird and isolating, because like, things are on Zoom, but you're like alone all the time, or often. But yeah, that was a big deal for me. And that is why I give thanks, or one of the reasons especially, but I give thanks for you, because you made, like, I feel like you put something in the ground, like deep into the ground, that was like, and above the ground, certainly. But it was like, wow, I'm not alone.
Right,
And
you're not alone. But you know what I'm hearing too, the thing that really jumps out at me is how basically you're saying what's holding you back or what you were resistant in the beginning because of fear. It's all fear-based, right?
yes.
So
Mhm.
you overcame this fear is what happened. And
Yes.
fear is what holds us back from living a magical, miraculous, extraordinary life. It's always because of fear. And I'm curious to hear, as
Mhm.
you're working through this process in the early stages of AOM and me, what
Mhm.
was the thing or the pivotal thing that allowed you to overcome or disappear your fear? What do you attribute that to? What do you think it was?
Um, well, if I will tell you that I will answer the question, but see fear sort of as like I have my individual fear, but I feel like there is a fear is just something when I look back that I've had like just pervasive in it's very subtle and you don't even feel it, but it's there. And so I'm able to disappear fear, but it's like, for me, it's like, I don't want to say it's a daily thing or that, but because as you become more confident in your consciousness, then it just naturally like just lowers down. But what really helped me so much about the AOM system is the creating the day, like this daily practice. And for me, it's really, especially in the mornings, they're like, so I just love it so much. With creating who I was being, because that's one of the tasks of 3 ways of being daily. And that helped me so much to ground me and anchor me. And you know much of the time it would be, I remember I was being unstoppable, which I love, or love, or I mean there's just it could be anything, but it that helped because by me being grounded in these ways of being, which I would like carry with me every day, like. And so when I'm love, I'm not in fear. When I'm unstoppable, I'm not afraid. And you also, I mean, there's so many, you have a lot of techniques and practices, but I think that there was this choosing fear or faith. Is that, do you remember the fear or faith? You're like, you got to, because when I get scared and it'd be who am I being? But it's like, I have a choice here. I don't have to stay in the fear. I can let it go, do a release letter, blah, blah, blah. But it was the choice of choosing this. I choose, and for me, it's really this, who am I being? Okay, I'm not that, but today I'm one of my things is I'm fantastic. So it's like, if I for some reason got anxious, I'd be like, all right, who am I being? Fantastic. All right. I know, it's just there's just such value in it. And so
Powerful.
energetically strong
It
strength.
is. It really is. And it's great because, also like just to define even further what you're saying is that being authentic, just rooted in love, there's absence of fear versus inauthentic, rooted in fear, So you have a choice. It's one or the other. There's no third or fourth choice.
Right.
There's a one or the other. What's it going to be? It's completely up to you. Nobody has a say in this. This is absolutely completely up to you. It doesn't matter what's going on around you. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. It's totally up to you, and it's going to determine your experience and your outcome. What are some of the breakthroughs that you could share with us during those 3 months we worked together that was really extraordinary for you to experience? I mean, to experience, yes, that's a word.
Yeah. Well, the breakthrough I live in the Northeast, and have wanted and have business in the Los Angeles area, and I was just like, I want to live in California. I want to be in California. And so being bi-coastal was one of my dreams and one of my my intentions. And we are renting a place in LA for about 6 months starting in January. And but that wouldn't have happened, I feel, had I not been focused on it. And it was just great how it worked out. So that was nice. And then I really wanted to get engaged to my partner. I have a wonderful partner of 4 years, and hey, hi.
Yes, that's awesome. I love that.
Got
It's
a ring.
a beautiful ring. And it's interesting because you said this has been an ongoing work in progress intention that just wasn't happening. And then it happened during the time we were working together, and you working with COM. And I'm curious to know, what do you attribute that producing, how did you create that result of engagement that was elusive before, but then just came together easily?
I think it was, or is, being authentic, because to be vulnerable, you have to be authentic. And I think I really just needed to share where this desire was coming from, with my partner, and to, but to truly be authentic and come from love, because I think I was somehow protecting myself or something. So it was being authentic, which I believe did the deal.
Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Absolutely. I always tell my clients, if all you were doing was just being authentic all the time, you're not going to suffer. You're going to be satisfied, and you'll have things that you want show up for you, So, I know this for a fact, because there's, like you said, there's absence of fear, there's absence of misery and suffering when you are being authentic.
Mm-hmm.
It's only natural that the results you get in life that show up would be desirable, because it's in alignment,
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of simplicity here, actually, to this work, knowing what you know now about manifesting.
Mm-hmm.
What was the thing that surprised you the most?
I think the thing that surprised me the most was, or is, and I'm still, like, again, work in progress here, but in picking out, in choosing daily ways of being, and then seeing over the course of the 90 days, how, I mean, almost every day was a great, like, the best day ever. It's like, I literally feel like and that is one of my intentions, to have the best day ever every day. So, but I started seeing my choice of who I was being, and seeing how it was manifesting in the world and in myself and in my relationship, and just life. It was wonderful. And then about I don't know, a couple weeks ago, I started thinking like, whoa, wait a minute. You can start choosing a lot other things, Donna. Like there's magic in those hills, like I think I was sort of playing it safe in what I was choosing to be. But so I guess the biggest surprise is just how joyfully possible life is, how we can be, do, or have anything. And I think I just didn't fully, like, I'm experiencing it, I'm seeing it now in my sort of DNA. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Like so that was just the biggest surprise, was like, wow, this is kind of this is like every day is kind of magical. And not to say that, there's a lot of crap going on in the world. I have a lot of, dear friends who, people, just life is life. But who I'm being in the world, I just, I'm really extremely happy to be alive. And every day is like a new opportunity to just manifest love, manifest joy, and manifest, anything on my menu, really.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so what I'm hearing you say is that getting that anything and everything is possible and that you can do it, having the clarity that that is true. Something can't come true if it's not at least a possibility at first, right?
Mhm.
It can't come true. So now you've gotten that and you've got tools to make that a reality for you is extraordinary. And how is it that you feel? How has it impacted? We talked about how it impacted this work with your relationships. Now you're engaged and it sounds like it's just perfect. It's great. Everything's awesome.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
how about like your work? How has that been affected?
Well, this is an interesting thing. One of the things I was hoping for, because, I'm a writer and I create things as well as a writer for hire. But when I first started working with you, I was like, I wanted one of my sitcoms to be picked up by 90 days, and then after like working with you just even a couple of weeks, it was an interesting thing. I feel like I went down to zero and I was like, it's not that I didn't want it, but I didn't want it. Like, meaning not under the circumstances that I thought that I'd wanted it. Like I let that
Or for
kind
the
of,
reasons, you
yeah,
mean?
I think there was still a part of me that felt like, I think it felt like, I get a seat at the table and that means I'm somebody, or, like, or it
Oh,
just,
in
I,
order to be
it wasn't
somebody, you
in
have to
order
have a
to,
seat
I
at
think
the table.
it came from an in order to, and I was like, everything I want to do now is, well, I want to create value, but I want it to come from kind of like getting back to when I was younger, like coming back to just sort of channeling and being guided and having it be healing on the planet and helpful. So I've so I've gotten more into the healing arts in the last, even though I have been for a long time, but just sort of practicing. So practicing that, and like, I love healing. I love helping others. I love I love that a lot. So that's been great. But the wanting to have something in order to, it's sort of been put on the shelf, but it's fine because it'll come back. I'm happy with that. But and then also I've been a writer for hire for a couple of years now for this independent television series. And for 2 months, there was no work. And which is the first time in years that I hadn't worked in 2 months. And I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting? So I got to one kind of be on vacation, which was really fun. Sort of like I'm in the job of being happy. I'm in the job of manifesting and learning and all of that kind of stuff. So that was interesting. Business has started again, and just wrote another episode last week, so that was great. But I think what's happening more for me personally is as a writer who does channel, like I feel like I'm just doing some really good inner sacred lovely work now that is bubbling up and will be manifesting like it's all there, but I'm not I haven't been like working on my my projects, if you will, to get them. It doesn't feel like the right time. It feels like the time to just learn all this stuff, be enjoy my life. I feel so joyful. I feel so, really appreciative about being alive.
Are you happy with where you're at right now
I am
with your
so
career
happy.
and the transition and the redirection that sounds like that's occurred, for the better?
Yeah, I'm absolutely I'm very, very happy. And the career thing I mean, yeah, we need money to survive or all of that, but I'm not my career. I'm me. And so it's just been given, it just feels freer. And
Yeah.
there was also, I want to say there was fear.
Yeah.
There was fear attached to
That's what I'm hearing you saying.
that stuff.
Through the work, you disappeared the fear. And now you feel freer and more creative and more confident, more secure with yourself.
Yeah, and it just feels like such a privilege to actually, do things because you love it. And
right, that's the freedom.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to what's next, and just very committed to continuing working on, or working with the AOM system and creating my day every day. And it's been a real gift.
Well, you're shining, and I really feel the completeness I'm seeing this incredibly shining, authentic self. But what's interesting is I get the sense, and I haven't talked to you for a little while, but I get the sense that you feel this way really all the way around. I don't feel like it's compartmentalized. I feel like it's an overall sense of empowerment, freedom, clarity, satisfaction that you're experiencing overall.
Yes, absolutely.
Good, excellent. I'm gonna have to wrap this up, but I have one last question. Yeah. So what advice or message would you give to anyone watching who's interested in manifesting?
Well, I would say have a consultation with you. Definitely, it would be a great thing. And I would also, read the book. Sounding like an advertisement, but I would just look. We all are 100%. We have so much possibility. Every single person out there. And I would just say, to anyone who's watching, who's going through a hard time, just know that one, you're not alone, and two, there's a way to get support and to be able to access the beauty within, the ability to focus in a way that just manifests joy. And there's also the word control is something I don't really like. I've never been the word control I don't like, but I realize in some ways, like, I want control, and I think everyone wants control, but I can't control the world, but I can control how I show up in it, to myself and to the world. And so I would say follow your heart and give Sterling a call.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
thank
being
you.
here with us today. I've just found your whole, I mean, every time that we're talking, as you're talking, all these things would kind of pop in and pop out as far as our journey together with you manifesting for 3 months. And I just remember how you came to me and who you are now. And I just have to say, I mean, it is just so different. I mean, it's incredible to see you blossom into this lightness, this power, this light, this such powerful force. It's impacting, you're always impactful, but it just, I mean, there's almost no words to describe it because it is such a dramatic change. And I know when you came to me, it was like confusion, overwhelmed, scattered, this, that, you know what I mean? It was just like that. And then you transformed, into, well, where you are now. And it's amazing to see that in such a short period of time. It just warms my heart, and it's just like nothing really gives me more greater joy than to see you become who you were really meant to be, your authentic self.
Well, yeah, and I want to say, like, you are the real deal. And like, I have to say, I was a little bit, and I think a lot of people sometimes they're like, oh, they're really not that way. They're just, they don't really feel that way. They're just, have an agenda or blah, 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 not trusting. And I do want to honor and acknowledge you for being not just a woman of substance, but a person. Your mission really is, you're the real deal there. And you've given me such a gift, because like, it was at a time where I needed to have faith in, something out there, and people who present themselves as a certain way. And I was just like, wow, she really is. So this has been just such a joy to also, in some small way, even in this conversation, support you in your authentic mission, which is really to transform lives. And so I'm real proud to know you, and I really appreciate you having me today. So.
Oh, thank you, Donna. You're so wonderful. I love it. And I really appreciate the acknowledgement. I really do. I mean, you're just telling me that my intention is being fulfilled. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I know I'm on track, and that's awesome to get that feedback, and I appreciate it. Thank you again for being here. And I just want to say to everybody, yes, ma'am. Everybody out there, please, if you like what you saw, you love this interview or whatever, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications of new content. We're always going to be bringing you the most enlightening, powerful manifestation information to help you master the manifestation process. We will see you next week for a surprise episode. All right. And please leave your comments. If you have a question about anything regarding manifesting, maybe we'll do a whole episode around your question. So thanks again, and create responsibly. See you next week.